Welcome to Let's Talk Avelo. I'm Jennifer Idle, Marketing Director for Avelo. In this episode, I'm joined by our Education and Training Director, Kris Shannon, to talk about Avelo's next chapter in training, the results of our Avelo ProfileX challenge, and the new Shearwater Jetpack for Avelo Diving. Whether you met us at DEMA Show or are new to Avelo, thanks for watching. So without further ado, thank you for joining us, Kris.
Happy to be here, Jennifer. Thanks for having me on with the webinar.
It's exciting to spend a little bit of time with you on this Friday evening and get caught up and learn more about your dive story. The DEMA Show this year, we introduced you as the new Education and Training Director. Welcome.
Yeah, so it's a great honor to be a part of the Avelo team and to share what you guys are doing for the industry and to bring about some of the change to the industries. You know, these are new technology and doing things differently and really kind of bringing us back to exploration and exploring the underwater world in a new way.
Well said. You've been in the industry for a little while and you've been diving for a little while. I'd love to go in the Wayback Machine and maybe learn about what inspired you to go underwater in the first place.
So those of you that have met me or have had a chance to get to know me are kind of know that I'm a bit of a geek. So my initial diving interest actually started when I was about 12 years old, working at the Orlando Science Center. And at the time, we did every new movie that came into like our Cinedome, which is a big round dome theater. We would bring in scientific community members to explain how they contributed to science. And the movie that was in the Cinedome that month was Amazing Caves. And there was footage of underwater caves and exploration and collecting microbes and things like that. One of the community partners we brought in was the Cambrian Foundation. And I got to talking with them and met Terrence Teisel there. And he was walking around the building in full scuba gear and was, you know, just kind of being a goofy guy. And then through that, got invited out to help them with a couple of projects in the Central Florida Springs, working with NASA Life Science Lab, and then kind of grew from there into really the whole research side of things, cave exploration, and all of this was exciting to me at the time because I was interested in doing space stuff and astronaut and going to Mars, all of those fun things that you think of when you're a teenager. In doing so, though, I kind of lost interest in Mars when I realized that just 27% of our ocean floor had been mapped. So we had really only explored this much of it, yet we knew more about Mars than our own planet. So that really got me interested in what we were doing here and bringing that exploration. And one of the neat components for the Cambrian Foundation is that community outreach like they were doing at the Science Center. So I had the opportunity to speak with Girl Scout troops and elementary school kids and see their faces change as they began to understand the environment that was under our world's oceans or here in Florida, you know, flowing underneath their feet in the Florida aquifer. So I had a lot of opportunity to see what that meant for people. And that kind of hooked me into teaching diving and showing people how they could explore the aquatic realm themselves.
So are you a native Floridian or have you just been here for a really long time?
I've just been here a really long time, as most Floridian transplants are, right? So I've lived in Florida twice in my life, but my family is in the restaurant business. So we develop a concept, sell it, and move. So I would move every 6 months to a year. So I lived all over the Eastern Seaboard and all the way as far as Texas, which I know you're familiar with Texas, but really Florida and water is where my heart's at. I love being in Florida. I love being around the water and I love just being on the water, in the water, anything to do with water, I'm in.
So it sounds like you started under the water in Florida and became a cave diver.
Yeah. So I became a cave diver and that led me to a lot of different research projects and ultimately getting a job here at the Orlando parks and working in diving safety, developing dive programs there, launching some helmet dive programs and guest experiences in the water, and then transitioned from that to working with Now Worldwide when they were writing their second edition diving materials. Um, so I was hired to rewrite and recreate all their second edition materials. So I just wrapped that project up beginning of the year, which was shortly before I learned to dive a velo in August of last year. So I was invited out kind of last minute to on the heels of being out on Catalina Island, visiting one of our dive centers out there. I was invited out to Hawaii to learn to dive a velo, and ended up becoming an Avelo instructor while I was out there. Um, just what the technology offered was not anything that we had in the diving industry. And I might be younger in the diving industry, but I've had the privilege of working with some of the luminaries in the industry and had the opportunity to dive double hose regulators and learned all of that technology. And so diving double hose um, is a really free experience if you've never had the chance to do it. Instead of diving double hose, though, you should just dive a velo because it's the same thing, but safer. Um, so that kind of is how I got into Avelo. It's for me, it's just the next natural step. It takes away a lot of the safety concerns that we normally face as open water instructors and replaces that with a smoother experience for your guests. So why would you not want your divers to have a better experience?
As an Avelo instructor, what have you seen in your students and in their enjoyment for diving? Because right now we've been certifying with the recreational Avelo diver specialty course. So everyone you've taught is an existing scuba diver.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise in people that I think I enjoy seeing is the obvious one, right? Just how much weight they actually need to go diving on this system and how little that actually is. Even, I think of one individual in particular. I'll leave him nameless, but he's a larger gentleman and typically needs 20 pounds of weight to successfully dive. And he was quite concerned that he was going to need all of this weight, and so I allowed him to make this choice rather than counter argue him and say, no, 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 you got to leave that behind. I had him bring that weight down to the water's edge so that he'd have the opportunity to put it on because he was sure he was going to need it. So we set it on the steps. He hopped in the water and we did a weight check. And he said, why did you let me carry that down here? And I said, because wasn't going to waste 15 minutes arguing with you about whether or not you needed it. So I just figured I would let you bring it with you. So that is, I think, the biggest one that I hear people say. The other one is more on the action side of it. Some of you may have seen it on social media, the interview that I had done with Kenny and Sweetwater Scuba, and just watching how free a diver becomes when they don't have to constantly manage that buoyancy as they go up and down and swim around and capture action footage on a dive. It's fun to watch them just play. And after all, diving's supposed to be fun, right?
It sure is. I got underwater because I love being underwater. And I, as an image maker, wanted to show people the world underwater. And you were inspired by some scientific pursuits. How do you think Avelo will help in marine sciences?
So the marine scientist is always looking at ways that they can improve buoyancy, and I see Avelo following into that in the science realm for a couple of reasons. One, in the zoological side of things, you have the advantage of a Velo system not being a vessel to transport microorganisms between systems. So there's an advantage for it there. Um, but on the broader sense of things, the buoyancy control that it offers you, especially when doing research or capturing images like you do, if you're doing small coral plantings and things like that, your delicate maneuvers are so much more easily controlled as you're doing those surveys and identifying those tiny creatures.
Awesome. We have so much to look forward to at Avelo. We have big announcements such as inviting you to the team. And at DEMA Show, we made a big training announcement about a new program. Could you give us some insight into what's coming in 2026?
So in 2026, we are going to be launching the Avelo Diver program. The Avelo Diver program is an entry level training program that will teach divers to experience the underwater world for the first time using only the Avelo systems. They will no longer need to be certified as open water scuba divers. They can begin diving and continue diving on the Avelo system without instructor supervision after the course. It'll be structured similar to what you know from your open water diving courses. So there will be some confined water sessions. There will be a series of open water dives where those students will learn all of the requisite skills to explore the aquatic realm and check out the creatures that live beneath the ocean and even in freshwater springs and quarries, without having to deal with a traditional BCD and the risks and hazards that that brings.
That's a big announcement. We're teaching Avelo to people who haven't been in the water ever, and we've been working on this program now for, I guess, a year in development and are seeing initial reactions. I know in the Denver pool, I heard that some people were, for the first time in the water, swimming around looking like they were dive professionals, like maybe even a dive master level. And we're excited about this. And even more so, onlooking instructors were excited to see the student experience they were having. Would you like to share more about people's experiences so far and how we look into foreseeing that program?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we all know as instructors is we spend a lot of time in our classes trying to get people's buoyancy just right. And if you could remove that time, you have all that time back to teach them all those other skills and to spend their time exploring and beginning to learn as divers. So as you mentioned, the initial experiences, it's kind of funny as an instructor. You're almost pre-programmed to expect there to be, okay, well, they're going to yo-yo up and down. They're going to deal with these buoyancy issues. We're going to have to work through that before I can get to real skills. And it just doesn't happen. And so you're almost dumbfounded for a moment as you wait to try to catch up with the fact that, oh, I can just move on. This is good. We're good to go. Um, So it's funny to watch, and it's gonna require instructors as they learn to teach this to kind of rethink the way that we're teaching these classes. So as we launch it, there'll be some e-learning that'll help our instructors learn to do that. Um, I do see a question coming in from Craig. So Craig, we're working with multiple other training agencies to be able to do equipment crossovers. So our divers are not going to learn to dive a traditional BCD. They'll be trained exclusively on the Avelo system, and that's what their credential will reflect. If they wish to learn to dive a traditional scuba system, they would need to seek additional training from a traditional training organization and learn to dive a BCD. Our hope is with those organizations to develop programs that give divers credit for what they've learned with Avelo and only learn the BCD skills.
I think that addresses what he was saying. That's good information for everyone to know that there will be other crossover specialties with other training agencies, and that divers on a Velo will be Avelo divers only from any of our training ever. Rollout, would you like to talk about 2026, or is that as
I'll share a little bit of insight. So as we begin rolling this out, it's going to roll out probably in Bonaire to begin with as a dive destination. They're one of our more experienced dive centers, and they're well suited to do this for a couple of reasons. One is that here domestically in the continental United States, there are pretty strict requirements for professional liability insurance, and we have to show track record and complete some third-party audits prior to being able to offer that program in the United States. So as we work through those requirements, which we're actively doing, we're going to start launching this in other markets. And as we roll it out through probably first quarter of 2026. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be functioning worldwide.
Wow, that's big news indeed. We had a great DEMA show this year. We had so much energy and enthusiasm for the growth with our training, with the divers. We also kicked off the show with an Avelo ProfileX challenge, where we looked at people's buoyancy metrics and determined some winners. I see we have Duncan with us this evening, and he had a winning profile with his student and an extraordinary story there. I look forward to showing everyone what that looks like. Is there anything else we wanted to share about our training before we moved into the challenge, Kris?
No, I think I'm just excited to work with everybody, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything, just training at Avelo Labs, and we'll get your questions answered.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And Kris will be here to answer questions as we go through. I just wanted to highlight our Avelo Profile X challenge and jump into some Shearwater Jetpack exciting things. I know Kris is excited for what the Jetpack enables for Avelo mode integration with Shearwater computers. So let's dive into that. We had the Avelo ProfileX challenge at the beginning of DEMA Show. Thank you, everyone who participated in this. Was My memory was jogged as Kris was talking, and the excitement about the new programs to come, in no small part because uh, we had uh, over 1,000 profiles submitted in just over a month. So this was a short challenge. We can expect more challenges to come, and we'll see how that gets started. How did we get started? Scuba doesn't have to be heavy and cumbersome, but Avia Kahana asked this question why it needed to be, and created the Avelo system. It turns out we don't have to have a heavy, cumbersome system. We can have a lightweight system that, in turn, we discovered does even more. We got into this by examining what we need for scuba diving and then providing a solution with the Avelo system, bringing in a much lighter system, carrying about 45 pounds. And then we started our growth. Before September 2023, we had one dive center. And by the end of 2025, we now have well over 55 Avelo Dive Center locations in progress. So this is exciting news. DEMA Show also kickstarted a number of new dive centers that we look forward to welcoming. We'll be sure to do that through our Avelo Insiders newsletter, and our dive centers will get some announcements. And of course, on our social media channels, you'll be able to see as we welcome dive centers all across the globe. Recently, I think one of the newest ones was in the Maldives. We have so many dive centers opening in Asia that it's even hard to keep track of. And I recently welcomed new dive center from South Dakota and Iowa. So we've got some new states stateside that are also starting to come in. It's exciting to build the Avelo Dive Center community. We love everyone that participates in this. And with that growth come new products. We've been partnering with Shearwater and Scuba Pro on offering the Avelo mode on the computers. And Shearwater in particular had some huge announcements at DEMA Show this year, namely all of their air integrated computers, or almost all of the air integrated, the um, Perdix TX, I believe. Is that right, Kris? Is the only
Yep.
one that does not yet offer the Avelo mode. But all of the other,
Emphasis on the yet.
yes, all their other air integrated computers offer Avelo mode. Shearwater announced a new dive profile system for their computers in their downloads. And the biggest news they had was showcasing the new Shearwater Jetpack for Avelo diving. We got to see this. It is a well-balanced system that trims the divers' significantly so they can hover even more perfectly, which rolls right into Avelo mode challenges, where divers compete for having the uh, most accurate buoyancy control during training dives, I might add. But the new Shearwater Jetpack system was available for purchase through all Shearwater dealers. They can all offer this. The hydro tanks are still the same hydro tanks that we use at Avelo. Shearwater has their own offerings and packages, so you can talk with dealers and getting into this system. Perhaps the most exciting thing is the integration with the computers as direct. You don't need a T1 transmitter added to your regulator. All of the electronics are controlled through the jetpack itself, and it gives you even more accurate and consistent data readings. The data that we can pull from this is extraordinary. So I look forward to seeing new developments in Avelo mode coming out of the Shearwater Jetpack. Having all of that technology on board and being able to get your gas readings straight off is pretty exciting. You plug your regulator, you'll have a hose that you plug directly into the jetpack. So all of this next generation technology is pretty insightful. They also have a very comfortable harness. So all of those updates are exciting to see. If you didn't get a chance, this is a look into the actual product. So how cool is that? Did you try it on at the show, Kris?
I did try it on at the show, and I actually had the opportunity to dive it shortly before the show down in the Keys. It's a very comfortable system to dive, and I think one of my favorite parts was actually that similar to the classic jacket style BCDs that kind of felt like a nice hug when you wore them. This system kind of offered that same hug. It's very comfortable to wear. And offers you all of the same great experiences that the Avelo Jetpack offers, just a little bit more comfortable.
Awesome. We love and support all of our partners, Shearwater and Scuba Pro. And Shearwater offers the Shearwater Jetpack. We will continue to offer the Avelo Jetpack as well. For everyone who's asking and questioning about that, we still have that available, particularly as rental models from dive centers who are looking to use them for their training programs. And of course, we also offer the hydro tank. So the hydro tanks are the same, whether they're from Shearwater or they're from Avelo ourselves. So just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that we'll continue to support all of our hardware as well. It's just nice to see other people in the industry bringing this to life. We had a number of seminars where we explained how the Avelo system works. If you'd like to learn more about that, check out some of our other YouTube videos. But let's dive into the winners from this year's Avelo ProfileX Challenge. One of the new features Shearwater announced was the buoyancy reset feature on their computers. And so we introduced a challenge leading up to DEMA Show where you could reset your buoyancy after performing one of each of 3 skills. So there are 3 buoyancy check marks in everybody's profiles where they check their reset buoyancy, and they got to see who was the closest to where their neutral buoyancy, where their trim was, how close were they. Super exciting to see and to get everyone's stories in place. Uh, Daniel couldn't join us tonight, but he sends his regards. He is a tired father, and even still, he was an excited Avelo diver. Teddy was his instructor from 4CE Scuba Center, and I'm just overwhelmed by the love and support from Daniel and his story and understanding the simplicity of the system and appreciating that precision, even while he's a tired dad trying to figure out which way is up. He seemed to really enjoy getting back into diving using the Avelo system. These profiles are collected off their second dive profile. So they have 2 dives to complete your recreational Avelo diver training. The first dive, we introduce you to the system and familiarize you with it. And then the second dive is full of skills. So they are putting it to the test. Let's see if we can. Second place, we had Duncan with his student Brenda. And At 75 years old, she experienced a 10-pound weight reduction, which is pretty extraordinary. Um, uh, Duncan is on tonight, and maybe he can share with us a little bit about her personal story. She was an incredible student uh, who just lit up and glowed. Duncan, do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So Brenda came to Bonaire not with the intention to dive a velo, but she was diving with other people here on the island, and one of them, George, that we know very well. He bought the jetpack from us, and he's diving basically only a velo on the island. So Brenda and George were very good friends, and she saw how easy it was with George to dive the velo system. So she contacted us with her husband, and they both did the red course at us. And yeah, she was really amazed with weight reductions. She normally had 10 to 12 pounds of weight um, in in her normal gear. So yeah, huge reduction with the Avelo system being much lighter, and she didn't need any weights with the Avelo system. So she was super surprised with that. And she was just a really good, very experienced diver. But yeah, very good diver. And, her and her husband really enjoyed it, and we rented the Avelo system afterwards, many days.
For
So
people that
yeah, and she did awesome.
For people that don't know, she had to do shore dives, and you have to walk a little ways in Bonaire to get out to the
Exactly.
water.
Yeah,
And I want to
yeah.
emphasize we
You
went
need,
from Daniel in third place as a new father and at the youth end of things. She's 75.
yeah, yeah. She was also, both of them were really happy because they just realized that they prolonged their diving career for many years because they love diving at Bonaire and they love shore diving, but it became a little too heavy for them to walk over the rocks with their standard gear. Yeah,
And you can see that her buoyancy reset is closer together in a single line and getting more consistent read on where her neutral buoyancy was. This is hard to achieve. Have you tried it yourself,
very
Duncan?
hard. Yeah, I tried it a couple times. So very hard. And actually, Aviat said he did better than Aviat when he tried. He tried it for himself. But yes, he had a really good knowledge about good buoyancy already, I think, because yeah, she was very accurate.
Thank you for sharing your story. I know Kris also wanted to be with us tonight. Oh, let me also share. And Duncan and Brenda both received, in addition to the Avelo gifts that we gave, they both received a T1 transmitter so they can continue their Avelo journey. That was pretty exciting. It was nice to see Shearwater gave gifts for some of the prizes to recognize people's achievement. As we look at Kris and Donnie, this was a 60-gram difference in buoyancy
Wow.
control. And you can see their buoyancy reset was nearly a straight line all the way across. And it kind of got a little hyper competitive as we neared getting this kind of perfection. I don't even know if he could replicate this trying it again. But Donnie has regrets that he was unable to be with us tonight. Both he and Kris are busy in remote areas. Kris is doing a number of dive training programs right now, starting even more Avelo dive centers in Asia. But Donnie, admittedly, is a PADI IDC staff instructor. So he's a dive professional going into Avelo for the first time, had experience with buoyancy, knew how the system should work. He was experienced with managing the bubble that standard BCD provides. And even he was amazed at the level of precision he could achieve. So this was super cool uh, to see how he highlighted that. And he and Kris both went home with Shearwater Turn dive computers. So this was the big first place prize. Uh, Duncan, can you comment on on Donnie's profile here?
Yeah, I have no idea how he did this. 60 gram is nothing. It's nothing. I don't think, yeah, I don't think anybody can redo that one.
As you go through the Rad 2 dive, the first point, can you explain the skills where they're resetting the buoyancy, what three
Yeah,
skills those are?
absolutely. So what we do is we go in the water. We let the people be comfortable because it's a second dive, so they have a pretty good idea of what to do already. And when we ask them like, do you think you're neutral? Do you think your buoyancy is good now? And when they think they're all good, then we let them reset the buoyancy. So they press a button on the Shearwater computer, and you can reset the buoyancy to 0. So actually you force the computer to say like, okay, buoyancy is 0 right now. Then we do a skill that's called continuous running pump. We show to the students that, okay, in a really bad situation, when something goes really bad, your pump is just running constantly without shutting down. So we make the students extra heavy. So we let them swim then for 30 seconds, being very heavy, well, very Avelo, very heavy. And afterwards, after 30 seconds, they can make themselves neutral again. So what they do then, they stop the pump and they can purge away water from the tank to reach what they think is their neutral buoyancy again. And when they think they're all neutral, then they reset the bottom again to 0. So that's the second little triangle that you see. And then afterwards, we do the opposite. We tell to the students like, okay, now purge all the water from your tank. We pretend that there's a water leak. And we'll show to the students like, okay, this is how it looks like when you're light with the Velo system. And it's actually very easy to maintain your depth with your Velo system, being light. So again, for 30 seconds, they have to swim without any water in the tank. And afterwards, then they can run the pump and make themselves neutral again. So that's the third little square triangle that you see. So there are 3 points that they use the Shearwater button to to force the computer to be
And any
put the
diver
computer back on 0.
any diver using the Avelo system and Shearwater dive computers using Avelo mode can reset their buoyancy and manage this on their regular dives, not just on
Absolutely.
training dives. And
Yeah,
they
you can
can see
reset it. You can just tell the computer.
when they feel neutrally buoyant, then they can also look at the dive computer and it'll say you're a little bit heavy or a little bit light. If they're reading the computer, they can then sort of test that. But here, I think they were feeling it, not just reading the computer and going, this is when to hit 0. They had to feel it and then hit reset. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
We can expect
then
more
being
of this to come.
nice.
There will be more challenges ahead. And here's a look at the
Mhm.
winners at DEMA Show with Jason, the CEO of Shearwater. There you are, Duncan. Excited getting
Yeah.
your T1 transmitter and our Avelo bags. I see I see them holding it up. They're very excited. Aviad and Teddy were there also. So thank you guys and congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us. It's inspiring to see this community grow around the world. To learn more about Avelo training, upcoming events, or where to dive Avelo, visit diveavelo.com. We'll see you next time.